Thank you very much, Chairs, and I want to thank the several panelists who would have presented. My initial intention was to leave because I'm literally tired, but I thought that this has been for many years and continues to be a very important topic for me. And I just want to quickly react to some of the contributions I heard, and perhaps I would start with my Caribbean colleague, and I thank her for presenting what are essentially a number of critical facts, and to suggest that in listening to that, we have a phenomenon, and it may not be peculiar to the Caribbean, but if we think in terms of access to education, particularly post-secondary education, and more specifically university education, we have a phenomenon across the primary tertiary education, the University of West Indies, with campuses in Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, and Barbados, where perhaps 2/3 of the students are females. And therefore, the question is, how does that translate into involvement, not only in terms of politics, but in leadership positions? And by force of sheer numbers, I believe that over time, we will see, given the fact that we have no legal impediments, so to speak, that women will predominate. But I would want to ask a couple questions in relation to women in politics, for example, and the question I would ask would be, to what extent does the generally low level of female participation in politics reflect a studied choice on the part of some women when they evaluate the costs, the rewards of political service? Does it really benefit them? If I use myself as an example, I'm a member of the Senate. That is an appointed body rather than an elected body. And I took a studied decision that I did not want to get involved in elective politics. So I was pretty much pushed into this because of some other involvement. The other thing too is when we look at the distribution across the public sector and the private sector, in Barbados, like many other countries in the Caribbean, our public sector leadership is predominantly female. And that speaks both to opportunity in a positive and negative sense, because traditionally the salary differentials in the public sector have been such that it is less attractive for males to come into the public sector. That is changing with the employment situation, etc. So over time you would have seen a predominance of females. If you come into the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Barbados, we had to make an effort to get young men into the Foreign Service in recent years. But there's some other issues associated with that which I don't want to spend a long time. But that leads me to the question or the comment that there needs to be more empirical evidence collected, especially what I call qualitative assessments, where we go beyond identifying ratios and percentages of persons, distribution across positions, etc., to look at the issue of why, what are the social, psychological and other factors that impact on women's choices outside of barriers such as legislation, discrimination, etc. I would suggest that in terms of women's leadership, the issue is about creating an environment in which women can exercise genuine choices. That is, that they're able to explore options and have an equal opportunity to make choices and equal opportunity to self-actualize. I would just end by also making the point that in some situations, women have had to guard or find themselves having to address what I describe as a triple burden. In the context of some societies, and Barbados is one, where we have a significant percentage of female-headed households, the choices that some women have to exercise reflect their need to balance what I call a triple burden. The triple burden being responsibility as the main income earner, and the responsibilities for multi-generations. That is responsibility for parents and children, the elderly and the children, and in some cases, not even grandchildren. So I think all in all, as we discuss this issue, there are many barriers to women's involvement, but I also believe that there's need for us to understand if we are to do more than recognize some of the issues, but to help women themselves address their ability to assume leadership positions. Thank you very much.